Hey there, I'm Mr. Terry. I'm a high school history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher X video. All right, it's basically become a thing now when the Fat Electrician uploads. You know I'm not far behind to cover it. It looks like we got another good topic for us. This video is titled 43 Mailmen Fight the Germans, the First Battle of World War II. So I don't know exactly the role of the Mailmen, but if we're talking about first battles of World War II, probably talking about the Battle of Westerplatte as part of the German invasion of Poland. But I want to see these Mailmen. All right, original video link is down below. Make sure you're supporting the Fat Electrician because he's been supporting our channel. All right, let's check this out. All right, let's do it.
All right, let me set the scene for you. It's September 1st, 1939. It's Friday, but you've got a job. You've got stuff to do
Beginning of the
because
war.
You're a Polish mailman, and you just
First
got
day
to
of
work. So you
invasion.
grab your packages, and you set out to go deliver the mail. And right as you step
It's a
outside the
crappy day
post
to do
office,
mail.
a bunch of armored vehicles pull up full of German SS soldiers,
gosh.
and they inform you that you're going to surrender or else. Do you A, surrender, or B, go back in the post office and proceed to get in a firefight with the Germans for the next 19 hours? Today we're talking about the most gangster post office of all time and the first battle of World War II, when 43 Polish mailmen went toe-to-toe with the German SS for 19 hours.
Yeah.
But first, a word from our sponsors. This video is brought to you by my favorite sporting goods store, Shields. They've got over 35 retail locations all across the United States.
I like Shields.
And if you can't make it to one of these incredible retail locations, they also have an even better online
You could spend so
store
much time
that I'm
in
going
a
to have
Shields
linked in the
store.
description
They're
down
huge, like a
below. And of
department
course, our
store,
newest sponsor,
basically.
Zaka Life Go Bomb. It's made
I want to make sure he gets his coupon in for you. There you go. 5% off with Fat 5. Heck yeah, let's go. You can get all jacked like him using this stuff. Was that the promise? He fills out a tank top, I think, a lot better than I would, so. All right, let's do it.
a discount code FAT5 to save some money. Let's get back to the video. All right, important background info. This is the German Empire before World War I. Got it? Okay, great. This is the German Empire after World War I. Notice how Poland cuts it in two, and at the very tippy top of Poland.
Well, notice how Poland exists after it. Taken part of Russian Empire, part of the German Empire. By the way, if you thought that wasn't going to last long, you were right, because it's exactly what the goal of the alliance between Germany and Russia was going to be, was retake that territory.
There is the free city of Danzig. Okay, what is a free city, and why does that map seem to imply
Germans
that it
always
is
thought
its own country? Well, because basically it is. It is
always
its
keep
own
it.
sovereign entity with its own passports, its own currency, and its own form of government. You see, at the end of World War I, when they were negotiating the Treaty of Versailles, both Germany and Poland really wanted dominion over the city of Danzig.
Important port city.
See, it's built on the coast of a perfect geographic harbor. This made it a major port city and an economic powerhouse, which is why Germany and Poland were both fighting over it, and they were fighting over it for so long that it would end up holding up the entire Treaty of Versailles. And finally, the League of Nations stepped in and they're like, hey, okay, well, now neither one of you are going to get it. It's going to be its own sovereign entity, its own little thing, whatever. We don't have time for this. Moving on. So the Free City of Danzig was founded in 1920. However,
so you can see how this is going to be an issue, because there are multiple people that are still going to want it, just because League of Nations, whatever, is going to come in and say, all right, no one really has a good claim to it. Better believe they're going to want it, and especially the Germans. It's a huge part for them. Northern Europe, it's you know, getting like good harbors and stuff can be quite difficult. So a place like Germany, which doesn't have like, you know, a border with the Mediterranean, needs that type of port access.
Pretty much the entire population
So do the Russians,
was
too.
either German or Polish. Danzig decided that they were going to grant a bunch of extraterritorial properties to either country, and one of those properties would be the Polish post office, which was just that, sovereign Polish territory. And that's pretty much all the background info you need. So fast forward to April 1939, things are getting real tense between Poland and Germany. Hitler's been in power for the last 6 years, the Nazi movement is well underway, and for the last couple of years, a ton of hardcore Nazis referred to as the brown shirts have basically been trying to intimidate Polish people to move out of Danzig so they can reestablish it as part of Germany.
Right.
Poland, seeing this, decides, hey, they might try something soon on our extraterritorial properties, so we're going to take a single army combat engineer by the name of Konrad Gudurski. We're going to send him over to the post office. He's going to help fortify that position and teach all the mailmen how to fight. That way, hopefully, they'll be able to hold the post office for like an hour or two while the army has time to get in there and defend it. So Konrad...
So I was just thinking about like post office this? Why are we talking about that? It's like, hey, war is going to go on. The first thing we've got to have still stable is a post office. We got to have our letters.
He shows up at the post office. He's got a bunch of pistols, some carbines, a couple of crates of grenades, and 3 Browning 1928s, which, as you can see, is just the Polish equivalent of the American BAR. At this point, there's 56 people working at the post office.
Was it as good, though?
Conrad explains the situation, says he's taking volunteers for who wants to be part of the security force in case shit goes down. 42 people volunteer. He then begins training them and giving them a battle plan, and everybody else is just going to go run and hide in the basement if anything does go down. So for the next 4 months...
Imagine if you had that at your place of work. Like, just think about where you work right now. You had to have like a militia prepared. You have to have like training and like plans for this. It's like, all right, if crap goes down, all right, you're like the frontline defense. It's like you 5 line cooks from the restaurant, all right, and then the waitresses or whatever waiters, you're gonna have to go, and you can go down, somewhere else.
Conrad is both training the mailmen and building up fortifications. He ends up establishing one of the mailmen as the second in command, and that is Alphonse Flizakovsky. All right, fast forward
assuming
to
has
1st, 1939.
I don't know about this guy, but I was gonna say I assume he probably has some background in the military. Maybe involved in World War I or something.
And it's Friday. All the mailmen show up. They start getting their packages together. And while they're all in the post office getting ready to go out on their routes, 180 German SS soldiers roll up with 3 armored cars equipped with 20mm guns and cut the power to the building. Okay, it is like 4 o'clock in the morning and the German military just rolled up and cut the power. The mailmen are like, oh, we're doing this. All right, so they go, they get their guns, they head up to the 2nd story and stick their guns out the window pointed at the Germans.
You were not taking our mail.
A complete standoff between the German SS and the Polish post office. So they're having this military grade standoff, and then a bunch of civilians start showing up, like newspaper journalists and radio stations, and people are breaking out cameras and they're recording, and then just a giant mass of civilians shows up to watch. And as it turns out...
Did you ever think that was weird in history where it's like, people go to like watch battles? People did that like in the Civil War. It's like they're sitting on hilltops and, it's like a picnic, early photography. People were like, just taking pictures. Like, are you not afraid that it's a war? It's a battle.
No,
like,
they've all been invited by
now this is the first day. So obviously at this point, nobody really knows what the future is going to be like for this. It's about to get really bad, but you're talking about like, the first day.
To come and bear witness to the great German military retaking the city of Danzig. So once they all show up and get the cameras up and rolling, then the head of the SS walks forward and makes an announcement to the front of the post office, basically saying, hey, why don't you guys just come out and surrender, give this post office back to the Germans that you stole it from. Clearly he was anticipating that a bunch of mailmen would just surrender, turning over the post office completely intact, making a great piece of propaganda for the Nazi war machine, showing that the Polish were just surrendering at the mere sight of the great German army.
Dude, they underestimated the Poles in general. You guys know World War II know this. I mean, yes, Poland falls in a matter of a few weeks, but like, given what they had to work with and the speed at which the Germans came and its blitzkrieg and all this stuff, like, you look at them holding down like Warsaw, and like they did not, it's not what the Germans were predicting.
43 Polish mailmen that responded with, how about no? So now the leader of the SS is absolutely furious because his little publicity stunt just backfired, and now the Polish mailmen are making him look bad. So he's absolutely going to attack. But here's the thing. He has to attack and try to preserve the post office itself to not destroy the building, because that's the whole point. They're trying to reclaim the city, not destroy it. But then nothing happens for like half an hour. It's still just a standoff, and the Polish mailmen are like, are we fighting or not? What's happening here? Are we just going to stand here all day pointing guns at each other? What's the deal? So they waited, and they waited what felt like
everyone's waiting for orders.
In reality, it was only half an hour, because at 4:45 a.m., there would be a huge explosion off in the distance, and that explosion would be the guns of the German battleship, the Schleswig von Holstein, firing on a Polish military outpost. And these are the first shots of World War II, officially starting the invasion of Poland. This would
start now. Where Poland was, a protectorate. I don't know what exactly you call it. Basically created. I mean, Poland exists, obviously, but like created as a League of Nations creation from World War I, and was still in a very early state. So still relied a lot upon the defense by like League of Nations powers. Right, you already had Great Depression and stuff like that, but So yeah, first thing attacking here is this is where the Germans have really shown their military that they've been working on ever since World War One, and of course had violated all these different parts of the Treaty of Versailles. They weren't supposed to have naval power and all this, and it's being unleashed the first time here. And the Polish were unfortunately the ones that got to experience that.
It'll also be the signal for the SS to begin their attack on the post office as they open fire. Here's the thing with that: the mailmen were inside of a brick building on the second story with machine guns, and the 180 Nazis were standing out in the middle of the street with 3 armored cars. So as soon as the Polish defenders opened fire with their BARs, the Nazis realized that they had made a strategic fucking error, as all of them frantically ran and all 180 of them tried to hide behind these 3 armored cars.
Yeah, it's not gonna
so
work.
now all the Nazis are pinned down behind these 3 armored cars, and the 3 armored cars turn their turrets with their 20mm guns and begin firing on the front door, trying to break it in so that all the soldiers can rush into the building. So the mailmen, realizing what they're doing, they grab their rifles, their grenades, and their BARs, and they run downstairs and set up firing positions behind the service counter of this post office, as all the guns are just aimed at the front door, waiting for the Germans to break through it and rush in.
Like a Call
you
of Duty
understand what
mission.
I'm telling you right now? World War II literally started off like a shitty joke. 180 Nazis walk into a BAR. So the Nazis finally blow open the front door, and 10 of them come running inside, to which the mailmen are like,
"You've got mail."
4 of them are killed immediately and another 6 are wounded as the entire German advance screeches to a halt, and they turn around and are forced to retreat as they come to the painful realization that the Polish mailmen are quite literally hitting their birth certificates with the return to sender stamp. Now, to be completely fair, there's another battle happening at this exact moment in Danzig over in the naval shipyard. However, it is entirely within the realm of possibility that these 4 Nazis were the first men to die in World War II, and it was from mailmen with machine guns. As soon as the initial wave of Germans fell back, there was a huge explosion on the other end of the post office. Konrad Gadersky takes off running towards it with nothing more than his pistol and some grenades. As he gets there, he turns the corner, seeing that the Germans had blown an enormous hole in the brick wall of the post office, as he begins throwing grenades into an entire platoon of Germans attempting to advance on him before being gunned down. Konrad was credited with killing 4 Germans with those grenades and giving the postmen just enough time to get to that position and defend themselves, again driving the Nazis back and forcing them to retreat.
It's like they've really been, let's say, danger reaped part of this. Like their orders to defend this thing, like it's all just internal. I mean, again, this is like first day of the war basically, so we don't really know what's going on. It's like, why holding down this post office so much? Like it's a fort. And if it falls, the city falls, you know what I mean?
And again, we don't know this for sure because there's another battle happening at this exact moment, but it is entirely within the realm of possibility that Konrad Gadersky has just become the first man to give his life fighting against the Nazis. With the Germans retreating and Konrad Gadersky...
I'm going to pause this so you guys get a chance to give your salutes in the comment section to the first fallen of World War II.
Second man in charge, Alphonse Flizikovsky, rises to the occasion and begins instructing all the other postal workers what to do, getting them back into a fighting position, anticipating a third attack. But the Germans are so mad and so embarrassed that their publicity stunt is failing this bad that they don't want to risk it, and they decide that they're going to call for backup. Bear in mind, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning right now, and the Germans wait 6 hours until they can get reinforced by the regular German army, and they can show up with artillery. They had to show up with 2 75mm field guns and a 105mm gun,
like
just so they could bombard the entire post office.
Yeah, it seems like that's overkill, like it would be, but they're like not having success. Like they're short of the stuff to take down a post office. I got to see what that post office looked like. It was a giant fort.
Bombarding the post office with fucking artillery and then send in another attack.
Look at your post
and
offices.
they're still pushed back yet again. With German command having no idea what to do, they just start using everything they have. They get mortar teams out there, and the mortarmen start trying to drop mortars on the post office, but they're so inaccurate, they end up posing more of a threat to the Germans than they do to the Polish mailmen. So they have to call off the attack. They issue a 2-hour ceasefire and tell the Polish guys, like, hey, you got 2 hours. Think about it. You should probably just come out and surrender. Over the next several hours, the Germans would dig underneath the wall of the post office and plant 1,200 pounds of explosives. The Germans would then blow an enormous hole in the post office wall as they rushed in to ambush the mailmen. But the Polish mailmen refused to surrender as they retreated back to the basement, where there was one way in and no way out. And yet again, the Germans have no idea what to do from here, because the Polish mailmen are just sitting at the bottom of this staircase with 3 Browning machine guns waiting for them to try to come get them. So so they can gun them down. And the Germans have no idea how to proceed. At
Yeah.
this point, the German commander comes to the realization that these mail carriers are not going to quit defending their post office as long as there is a post office to defend.
Dude, these guys are
and
legends.
He is just going to get rid of the entire building altogether as he orders the Danzig Fire Department to begin flooding the basement full of gasoline. The mailmen immediately recognized the smell and began evacuating the basement as quickly as they could, but not before the gasoline would be ignited by a grenade.
I was gonna say, that was smart by the Germans there to try to get in there without having to mess with this, but
before the rest could escape. With the building burning and nowhere else to go, many of the postal workers decided that they wanted to surrender, but Alphonse Flizikovsky and 5 other men knew that if they surrendered, they would not be treated well by the Nazis. So they decided that they were going to try to run and escape. The other 36 mail carriers decided to surrender, leaving the building under a white flag. The Germans immediately shot and killed the postal worker that was carrying that white flag and took the remainder as prisoners. Of the other 6 postal workers that escaped, Alphonse Flizikovsky and 1 other would be captured the next day on September 2nd, as the other 4 would actually escape and get away. This would bring the total count of mail carriers that were captured to 38. Over the following days, 10 of them would die in the hospital due to injuries they sustained during the battle and during the fire. The remaining 28 were then declared illegal combatants by the Nazis, and they were all sentenced to death. This decision would later be declared a war crime because these men were not illegal combatants. They were trained and led into battle by Konrad Gdarsky, an active and serving military officer in the Polish military.
Okay, so I mean, again, you write your own rules when you're in charge right there, but there'll be courts after this.
Under his
that'll
command,
punish
the command
them,
of Alphonse Flizikovsky, 43 mailmen went toe-to-toe with 180 German SS soldiers reinforced with artillery and armored cars. 8 of them would die in combat, taking with them 10 Nazis and injuring 22 more. And those are just the official numbers from the Germans, which are most likely understated due to their extreme embarrassment.
Always are.
Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go check out thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
Final thoughts. All right, another good job of Fat Electrician finding these interesting stories, you know, within the stories of wars. You know, as I was kind of transitioning here and getting ready to talk, you know what this kind of reminds me of? It's like Fat Electrician's channel is like, it reminds me of like Simple History. You know, Simple History loves those little, you know, tales within tales. He's like the real life raunchy version of Simple History, and it's like it works, right? And every time I watch one of these, I come away with, again, some interesting understanding of something I had no idea of again, stories within stories. My studies have always been, you know, when I study history, is to be able to learn about as many things as possible so I can be able to teach them, right? And that's a lot of things I have to learn about, right, as a teacher. So I miss a lot of details and smaller things within things because my time is spent on broader ideas and many different topics. So like this kind of stuff is always interesting to me, and I come away with it. Thinking about the individuals in conflicts and stuff like that make a big deal, that make a big impact, right? And a lot of these kind of crazy heroic stories out there that wars sometimes bring out is these types of characters. So anyway, I was imagining this whole thing, just trying to think like somebody, I guess like these postal workers or just people in Poland about, man, they do not know what's about to come here with this. This is going to be a full scale invasion. Their country, unfortunately, is going to fall with, you know, incredible amount of defense and effort nonetheless. But what's about to happen here is World War II. Right. And these people are the first people to experience it. And the heroic stories basically start on day one. So I think that's interesting to remember. All right, you all. Thanks again for watching. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.